This panel is going to be on families and vacations. And we have Brian Hill first, and then we have Sue Shaw, and then Sarah Agate and Joel Agate, who are going to be our presenters. And so introduce Brian. He's a professor and graduate coordinator of youth and family recreation at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. And he's going to talk about vacations and family time. So, Brian?
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, very good. Okay, so I'm going to talk really pretty briefly because what I have to say and share with you is just very straightforward, and it's part of a larger study that we did on family time. So if you want to just go ahead. This is kind of the preaching to the choir introduction, the background about time famine and families. It seems like there's growing interest in the negative effects of time stress. That's why we're all here and have an interest in Take Back Your Time. But really very limited research has considered whole family time. There have been a few studies which I'll mention about that have looked at parent-child time, but until recently there was just really nothing that tries to look at how much time do all members of a family spend together. And so that was really the purpose of this study. We know that as it relates to family, there have been specific concerns about overscheduling children and the tight schedules that families experience, and underconnected families. Doherty in particular has talked about that. And there's been research on family recreation, but the specific measures of time have been sort of lacking. A white paper that was prepared by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in 2005, focusing on family time, recommended that research measure family time from the perspective of the whole family, and that longitudinal studies of family time are needed. And so the purpose of the study that we did was to try and meet that need, to try and actually find a base for how much time do families spend together, all the members of the household, all at one time. Because we have some of the other measures. There were 3 different studies done between 1996 and 2000 that tried to measure how much time do parents spend with their children. And these are some of the findings. Mothers were spending between 2.2 and 2.8 hours per day with each child, and fathers spending 1.3 to 1.45 hours. These differences are related to the different studies. So just kind of the ranges that are all fairly close, which suggests those are reliable findings. In single-parent families, though, it's much smaller, as we might expect. Children are only spending about 1.16 hours with their mothers and maybe a quarter of an hour per day on average with their fathers. Okay. All right, so in May of 2008, we had 1,154 respondents to an online questionnaire using Qualtrics. We were trying to establish a base among traditional families, 2-parent families with at least one child who was a dependent still living in the home. They completed this online questionnaire about family time. In the methodology, we would really like to do time diaries. We think those are the most valid measure of time use. But because of budget constraints, we really didn't feel like that was possible for us. We had to purchase the panel, and so what we did was actually ask them to recall the past 24-hour period and to talk about just not how much time they had spent all together in their day, minute by minute, but how much time they had spent all together as a family. And that seemed like a reasonable question, as well as how much time did they spend with each of their individual children, and how much time did they spend together with their spouse. The respondents were a cross-national panel with multi-level stratification that was based on the region. So we tried to get a similar percentage from each of the regions in the United States, as well as gender. So we had about 50-50 mothers versus fathers, and we also tried to get a mix of ethnicities as well. So those were the levels of stratification. Once we filled one of those categories, then people were not allowed to continue, or we didn't take any more respondents. So they were part of a large panel from Sampling Survey International, and that's how we did the survey. Okay? All right, thanks. So some of the results that I want to kind of share with you. Families spent on average 160 minutes altogether each day. So that may actually be more than some of what we hear about, and some of, I think, the anecdotal suggestion that how much time families are spending together. The thing that is really significant for this conference is that families spent almost twice as much time together on weekends and holidays. Our study period was about a week and a half, and inadvertently actually included Memorial Day, which in a sense was a blessing because now we have a holiday as well as 2 weekend days to compare with weekdays. And you can see that we had almost twice as much time spent together as a family on the weekend and the holiday versus the weekdays. So 232 minutes, or nearly 4 hours, versus 118, or about 2 hours a day. And then what we tried to do is we were interested in a couple of things. We were interested in the factors that were associated with whole family time. So what were the things? Did family size make a difference? What about income? What about, a variety of demographic sorts of things? What was it that actually influenced how much time families spent together? As well as we wanted to know, does this really make a difference? I mean, we all believe or sort of say, gee, how much time we spend together is related to how happy we are with our family. Or have some benefit from it. So we tried to actually validate that by measuring satisfaction with family life. And we did find that whole family time was a significant factor in relating to satisfaction with family. This is a misthing. With satisfaction with family life. I should not say time. So we were validated. It's not a large percentage of the variance, but it is statistically significant. And there are lots of things that were not statistically significant. Region of the country, ethnicity, gender, all of those things didn't really impact how satisfied people were with their family time. But what did impact was how much time they were spending together and, interestingly, how old the oldest child was, which was negatively affecting satisfaction with family life. So any of you who have raised teenagers understand this completely, that as the children grow, there are more frustrations, I think, as children try to develop autonomy and kind of set out on their own. And so the older the oldest child was, the less total satisfaction there was with family life. And that actually, I think, is sound logically and is also common in the literature. But the big question, does the time that we spend together with our family make a difference in our lives? And we would say that satisfaction with family life is related to satisfaction with our life as a whole. That's a component of that. And so, just our sense of well-being is influenced. Now, there is a flip side to that, since this is correlational, and we can't really say what's the cause and the effect. It may be that people who are more satisfied with their family spend more time with them, which also makes sense. So we just know that there's a relationship there. Okay?